Welcome, seeker. Moment in life when you start to feel different from others, not superior, but aware. The things that once thrilled you no longer hold your attention. The noise, the drama, the endless chase for approval, they all begin to lose their taste. And in that quiet realization, confusion arises. You wonder, am I changing or am I losing myself? But you are not losing yourself. You are awakening. Every awakening begins not with learning something new, but with unlearning what kept you asleep. The spiritually awakened do not announce their transformation. They do not preach. They simply start quitting things slowly, silently, deliberately, and permanently. The first thing an awakened soul abandons is unnecessary noise. He learns that silence is not emptiness. It is power. The world glorifies those who speak loudly, argue endlessly, and fill every moment with chatter. But the awakened see through this illusion. They understand that most words are armor for insecurity. To talk too much is to leak energy. To stay silent is to conserve it. The unawakened speak to be heard. The awakened speak only to be understood. And sometimes, not even that. They learn that restraint is not weakness. It is wisdom disguised as patience. Silence becomes their first form of mastery. It sharpens their mind, it cleanses their perception, and it creates an aura that speech destroys. Machiavelli once said that a ruler should never reveal all his thoughts. Not because secrecy is deceit, but because mystery commands respect. The same applies to the soul. The more you speak, the easier it is for the world to interpret, and therefore influence you. So the awakened begin to pull back. They no longer join meaningless debates. They no longer explain themselves to everyone. They no longer waste words to prove understanding. When they speak, their words carry precision and gravity because they emerge from reflection, not reaction. Their silence becomes strategy, an act of mental self-defense in a noisy, undisciplined world. And in that silence, they start hearing something rare, the sound of their own truth. The second thing awakened people quit is the hunger for validation. They grow wary of performing. For most of life, men wear masks, polite, impressive, desirable masks, until they forget the face beneath them. Society trains them to seek applause, to prove their worth through recognition. But the awakened begin to see the prison inside that performance. They realize that every time they chase approval, they give away freedom. They begin to detach from their image. The applause that once felt like sunlight now burns. The opinions that once shaped their choices now feel irrelevant. They stop seeking to be admired and begin seeking to be aligned. Their energy no longer flows outward for acceptance, it returns inward for truth. The ego resists this change. It screams, "You will be forgotten if you stop proving your worth." But the awakened know that to be unseen by the blind is not loss. It is liberation. They learn that the ego is a desperate beggar disguised as a king, and each time they refuse to feed it, it weakens. Detachment does not make them cold, it makes them real. They still act, they still speak, but not to be noticed, only to be true. They no longer decorate their existence for others' comfort. They stop explaining, stop defending, stop performing. And in that stillness, they rediscover their natural dignity. Machiavelli observed that true power never announces itself. The awakened embody this principle. Quiet, certain, unmoved by opinion. Praise and insult become the same currency to them. Both useless, both fleeting. They realize that when the need to impress dies, authenticity is born. And authenticity, unlike admiration, cannot be taken away. The third transformation arrives when the awakened person grows tired of being a puppet to his emotions. He begins to see that reaction is the first form of surrender. Every time someone provokes you and you respond without control, you hand them your power. The awakened refuse this trade. They begin to study their emotions like a strategist studies the battlefield, with patience, with precision, with detachment. Anger, fear, jealousy, pride, these are soldiers that can either serve you or destroy you. The unawakened obey them blindly. The awakened command them. They feel everything deeply, but act deliberately. They understand that to be calm in chaos is not to be numb. It is to be disciplined. Machiavelli once wrote that a ruler must appear passionate but remain cold within, for clarity of mind is lost in fire. The awakened live this truth. They stop reacting to every insult, stop defending every opinion, stop wasting energy on what cannot be controlled. They discover that silence confuses those who seek reaction, and in that confusion they find control. When anger rises, they do not suppress it. They observe it. When sadness comes, they do not drown. They allow it to pass. They learn that emotions are not commands, they are signals. The wise do not obey them, they interpret them. The world tests their calmness constantly. But each time they choose stillness over chaos, patience over impulse, reflection over revenge, they win an invisible war within themselves. They stop being predictable. Their peace becomes their power. the power that no insult, no betrayal, no circumstance can take away. The fourth thing awakened souls abandon is the need to conform. They begin to see the invisible chains that bind society. Rules born not of truth, but of fear. They notice how people shape their lives around acceptance, how they repeat what others believe, how they call imitation belonging. The awakened grow restless in such a world. They start questioning everything, their beliefs, their habits, their desires. And in that questioning, illusion begins to crumble. Machiavelli warned that those who think differently must prepare for isolation, for the crowd has always feared the independent mind. The awakened experience this firsthand. The moment they stop agreeing with everyone, the world calls them arrogant, detached, strange. But they do not bow. They have learned that to please everyone is to betray yourself. So they step back. They begin walking alone, not in arrogance, but in alignment. The noise of the crowd fades, replaced by the quiet of their own conscience. Solitude, once feared, becomes sacred. They no longer chase inclusion, they choose truth. They no longer follow trends, they follow intuition. The crowd worships appearance, they seek essence. They understand that conformity offers safety but steals authenticity. The awakened would rather be misunderstood for truth than celebrated for imitation. They realize that freedom does not come from breaking rules. It comes from seeing which rules were never real. The world still watches them, suspicious, intrigued, sometimes envious, but they no longer care. The opinions of the blind cannot define those who see. They move through the noise like shadows, unmoved by praise, untouched by mockery. They live not to belong, but to become. The awakened separate from conformity not because they hate society, but because they love truth more than approval. They understand that most men live and die as copies. Only the few who dare to walk alone ever find their original form. These are the silent renunciations of the awakened, the quitting of noise, of ego, of emotional slavery, and of blind conformity. They shed what the world worships and gain what the world cannot understand, power through peace, control through awareness, and freedom through solitude. They do not ascend to heaven, they descend into themselves. And in that descent, they find a kingdom that was always there. Waiting, patient, eternal. In the end, awaking is not a sudden light that blinds. It is a slow burning fire that refines. The spiritually awake do not abandon the world, they simply stop being enslaved by it. They begin to see through the illusions that most offend, the false importance of opinion, the noise mistaken for wisdom, the masks worn in fear of truth. One by one, they quit the games that others play endlessly, the chase for attention, the hunger for validation, the thrill of reaction, the comfort of conformity. They realize that true strength is not found in control over others, but in command over oneself. Machiavelli once observed that those who master themselves need not fear the tempests of the world, for the storms outside are nothing to the storms within that they have already conquered. The awakened embody this principle. They stand calm in chaos, detached amidst drama, and free in a world addicted to approval. They do not seek to be saints or rulers, they seek to be conscious. Their silence is not weakness, it is strategy. Their solitude is not loneliness, it is sovereignty. Their detachment is not arrogance, it is freedom. And so, when the world around them still clings to noise and distraction, they walk quietly, almost invisibly, carrying an inner empire built on awareness. The spiritually awake do not rise above others. They rise above illusion, and in doing so they become what the world fears and secretly admires, a soul that cannot be controlled, because it has learned to rule itself.